moaning.
Not yet. Wait until that's
Sorry. All right. Good moaning. Coffee moaners. Lovely to see you. We've just been having a very intense chat about melons.
You can see why people equate them.
That does look like an areola.
You can see why people go, what a pair of...
Yeah. If you were over on Instagram a minute ago, you've seen there was a major drama going on about these melons because I've been traumatised the whole summer because I've not had one decent watermelon. And my whole family, we love watermelons so much, apart from Mark. Dina is a champion watermelon hunter.
She is.
And
she wears a loincloth when she goes hunting.
We were very traumatised because all that Hannah, my friend Hannah, who's got breast cancer, all she wanted was melon in the hospital. So I said, you leave it to me. She goes, I can't get a good tasting melon. My sister's the best melon hunter. She went Turkey shop, Greek shop, whatever, came back, bought this beautiful melon, cut it up. What was it? Tasteless.
Disgusting.
Then we went, so everywhere, all summer we've been buying them. We've spent a fortune. Then we went to Montenegro.
Where they're only €2.
Where the hottest country in the Mediterranean, and we were so excited. Did we get one bit of good watermelon?
Well, I would know. I don't like it, so I didn't try it.
So then he comes in yesterday.
Yeah, I walk in like this, guys, right? So it's Teddy's birthday, Sunday show happening later. Came in, I was like, look, Giles, I've bought you some melons. Admittedly, I said they're not big, and this is what I was met with. Literally, they were all over there, and they all went...
And I feel so sorry for him because we did actually do that. And he was, when I think about it, you were very excited.
I was really excited.
But I was just saying over on Instagram, the thing was, we are traumatised. We do not believe in melons anymore.
But then you went and hid them on a table over here. I went to look for a melon for your dad at one point. I thought, let's get the melons out.
It's going to be hilarious. If I open up this melon and it's delicious.
It says this, which is why I got excited.
No, it's that.
I went for this.
I mean, what kind of a melon is that?
It's called
Look at the size of it.
Baby melon.
Well, it hasn't had long enough in the sun, has it?
They use the word baby to justify charging the same amount and make you go like this. You go,
oh, it's a baby melon.
This is Piel de Sapo, but it says sweet, juicy.
We're going to open them. We're going to open them in this live at some point, and we're going to try
American football, isn't it?
Right. So let's kick off this morning with a funny.
Oh, okay.
Because might have to play it. Watch the bride, but also watch the guy on the ladder because he really made me laugh. Desperately trying to hang on, but here we go.
Porco zio! Com'è possibile? Com'è possibile? Ma come mai? Com'è successo? Com'è possibile? Porco zio! Com'è possibile? Com'è possibile? Ma come mai? Com'è successo? Com'è possibile?
How has this happened?
It's the poor man.
How is this even possible?
It's the skipper of the ship or boat who gets not a look in. No one cares about him. He's holding on for dear life.
But it's the person.
He's holding a dress up.
She's completely immersed in the sea, but there's the person still holding up the tray to try and keep it. When somebody's been given a job at a wedding, it's a very serious thing. And that woman's job was to hold
I love the way in crises people reduce what their roles are down to one small thing, which is often something like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It becomes something very, very primal.
But also, I was just so fascinated by the guy. Come possible? Like, if that had been us, we would have been, for God's sake. But he kept his voice. So
let's have another listen.
How is this possible?
Porco zio! Com'è possibile? Com'è possibile? Ma come mai? Com'è successo? Com'è possibile?
Do you keep cutting off?
No, that's it.
No, it was longer than that.
That's all I got.
I sent you the link.
That's all I've got.
Well,
Don't look at me like some fucking trading standards authorities. Fucked up. I'll remind you. Juicy, fresh and sweet.
That was very funny.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? The ketamine crisis, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. It is a crisis. It is a crisis. Prisoner release fears, another crisis. And breaking the streak, which I really like this. Mark sent me this article, and I thought it was just fabulous.
Yeah.
Because we all got friends that are addicted to their streaks.
Yeah, and streaks, there's for younger generations, Gen Zers, you'll be thinking Snapchat, streaks. Kids do that. But it's the streaks of things like Duolingo, but running, things that you can't not do every day. And also just on the prisoner release fears, it's the specifically around the domestic abuse criminals who are going to be released. Breaking the streak, divorce at 60. We might not have time for all of these. And vibes. I've got a couple of funny clips at the end.
We don't have time for divorce at 60. This isn't really about divorce at 60. No. This is about whether it's ever okay to divorce if you've had children. Is it still as painful? So, but if we don't have time for that today, we will do that tomorrow, because I really like that topic. I think it's a good one.
So let's start with some ketamine, not literally, but let's start with ketamine. And this is a piece in the Times talking about the ketamine addiction is soaring among young people in the UK. Once known as a safe party drug, ketamine is now a major problem, with experts warning of the devastating impact on young people's health and lives. Now, obviously,
it's not, and this has been going on for years, right? Because various young people that we know, as you know, we always talk very openly with all the young people that we know, whether it's our own kids or our friends' kids or cousins or whatever. And this has been a problem for, I think, way longer than people realise, because right back at uni, when various people we know went to uni, and they were just shocked by the use of ketamine. So ketamine, what is ketamine? Ketamine is an extremely powerful painkiller, and it's only £10 a gram.
Well,
right?
and its affordability is one of its.
Its affordability is a huge problem when you think of the cost of alcohol now. So governments put prices up for alcohol. I don't think it ever helps out young people, because what they do is, many of them, is they'll buy a whole load of alcohol and drink really fast and then go out because they can't afford to buy alcohol, or they'll resort to, in the older days, it was ecstasy. Not all kids, of course. We're just talking about those kids that are going to do that sort of thing. And now ketamine is so cheap that you can have a night for 10 quid.
There is also an hallucinatory kind of aspect. I mean, if you want to see a sort of visual representation of ketamine highs or K-holes, going into a K-hole, go and watch Kneecap, which in my review I talk sort of quite jokingly about. It is very funny the way in which they kind of portray it there, but there is a very, very, very serious aspect to this. And obviously the Matthew Perry side of things is a different sort of thing, although again, that was illegally being overdosed, essentially. But the dependency
but you're always really good on that, Mark, and it's really made me think, because before, when I've seen some really good results with ketamine being used for depression, and I've mentioned it to you, and you've never even countenanced the idea, and it's because you said you're still playing with an addict's addiction. Well, it sounds like that's what happened with him, but we're not talking. That's another conversation.
No.
Young
but on
people
that,
are in danger of this drug.
No, but I think that's a really important thing you say, because what often happens is we talk about cannabis, we talk about, and understandably, lots of people say in the comments and push back and say, oh yeah, but it has a medical kind of aspect too. It can be used for, ketamine is being used in studies and is used for depression and mental health problems, but I still maintain, I don't even think in those studies enough attention is given to the deep psychological complications of addiction in conjunction with using anything that's potentially addictive. I mean, the opiate crisis is a similar sort of thing. You use something for one thing, albeit not mental health, and then it becomes something completely different because that person has a proclivity towards addiction.
Let's not forget, ecstasy, MDMA, started off as a couples counselling drug, and somebody that I know that's had ketamine given to them for, and this person isn't an addict at all, for their very deep depression that they've had for years. And she said it was so incredible because I could really, and she was telling me about how brilliant it had worked with a cancer. And I was thinking, but could that become a bit of a problem? But that's a different matter. Now, the problem with ketamine is, and this is so horrific, what happens is that it thickens the bladder. And it thickens and thickens and thickens the bladder to the point where people become incontinent, if they're regular users of ketamine. But listen to this part of the horror story, is that the pain of this is so extreme. They're going to the toilet maybe 10, 20 times in a night. And guess what? Guess what the pain reliever is for that kind of pain?
It's amazing.
Ketamine.
Yeah.
Now, when you watch all these like real life doc hospital sort of stories. When people are lying on the floor screaming with pain, they've broken a leg. What is it they give them? They're often giving them ketamine. It's a very powerful painkiller.
A lot of addictive personalities and a lot of addictions can be triggered by sanctioned sort of prescribed medical kind of solutions. And I have a similar kind of circumspection. The amount of people that have said to me, loads of people have said to me, have you looked into the whole kind of microdosing? Have you looked into the whole kind of mushroom? And I'm like,
it's so dangerous for you.
A part of me is like, well, okay, it's hallucinogenic, is it addictive? All this kind of stuff. But the thing about ketamine, 26%. In 26% of all cases of young people using ketamine, is that right? Let me get the statistic right. A nationwide prevalence study in the UK has demonstrated that 26% of regular ketamine users experience at least a single urinary symptom.
I think the campaign has to be this.
Yeah.
I think you have you have big posters and you have people with a bag, because this is ultimately what can happen. You can end up having to have your bladder removed.
I've got a stark statistic here from an American profile or description of ketamine's impacts, the dangers of ketamine use. Where is it? This is someone who was talking about taking ketamine, and they were told that a normal bladder will hold anywhere between 400 milliliters to 800 milliliters of urine.
Yeah.
By the end of their ketamine use, they were able to hold just 70.
Wow.
So from a maximum of 800 to 900 milliliters down to 70. Now, that's not to say that if you know teenagers, young people, adults who are suddenly complaining of urinary tract infections, pain in the abdomen, going to the toilet. I mean, in a weird way, many of the symptoms are not entirely dissimilar to sort of prostatitis or inflamed prostates. But more often than not, if you've got a young adult who's struggling with that side of things, you may want to have a chat with them, because you're right. Someone just said, no one talks about the negative impact. You can order this stuff on Snapchat. You can order it on any social media. It comes like dominoes.
This is the problem. Snapchat, you can just order this almost, as easily as you can order a takeaway.
And you're right, statistics don't work. I think that the best way for me with cigarettes was seeing awful photographs of, unfortunately, cancer having destroyed people's faces, feet, bodies.
Yeah, that's what finally got you to stop, didn't it?
Kids deal with things optically, and I think you have to, like you say,
it's going to affect your looks.
Yes.
They're not, because they don't think ahead, and
or fashion. You should have someone trying to struggle to choose clothes on Vinted or what have you, and then they've got to cater for a colostomy.
Yeah, because those bags are like not, like
for young people.
I follow Tracy Emin, the artist, and she's so brutally honest about, because she had cancer of the bladder, and oh my God, I have so much sympathy for people that have that. I mean, it's a big deal. It's like it says in this article, doesn't it? When you are saying to a 20-year-old, we have to give you a major operation like that, the impact's it's going to impact right through your life. I just want to give you a few symptoms. This is from the Priory website, just in case you're wondering about somebody. So, anxiety and depression, fear and paranoia, confusion and memory loss are some of the symptoms. Hallucinations, auditory or visual, a feeling of floating or being able to fly, distorted perception of space, time and reality, which of course puts people in a position where they're going to take real risks. Entering a trance-like state and experiencing euphoria. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because our girls will tell us that if they're out at a party or something and people have gone off and taken ketamine, they come back and they say, you just think why they've done it.
Yeah.
Because they're just so boring.
Yeah.
They're just like, absolutely, they call it like K-hold, don't they? Just, I'm not a friend of ours' son, his first night at university, a girl took ketamine. She hadn't done any drugs before, and she went into this like terrifying K-hole. Everybody thought she was dead. Luckily she wasn't, and it was like, oh my God, so like that was her first experience at uni. Christ. So okay, terrible that she went through that, but at least she learned quickly. She went to, and She was doing it all the time after that.
I think a really important thing to say as well is young people, or it's the rites of passage that all young people think these things aren't going to happen to them. So, like, we hear amongst a lot of friends of our kids and what have you, when you talk about the potential dangers of vapes, everyone just thinks it's not true. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to be us. It's not going to be us.
Before.
MeTube just said something. I want to come to Sonia's comment in a minute. MeTube, you just said something that's really important. In our day, we used to have all sorts of kind of health campaigns. The government would run campaigns. A, we don't see them, but B, why don't they just drop them on social, like you said, drop them on social media? Yeah. Have lots of little, when you get the sort of
sure they
sponsored.
Don't? Are we not seeing
I've never seen the government sponsor. Yeah. But then, the danger. But
that amazing one that they did about.
But it has to be the right kind
Coke.
of advert.
What was it? The one where they had the girl's face, like young face, and then they had her actual face. It was meth. And I remember that it was always above.
Struck everyone.
That really struck everyone.
Because of selfies.
It worked.
I think something with selfies would work.
Go to their looks. Look what happened to this girl, because you can say it till you're blue in the face.
And Sonia Donovan makes a good point. The government are on about sorting out smoking to help the NHS. What about dealing with the drug situation?
Yeah, because the bloody mess coming down the line, if people having to have their bladders taken out and all of this. So be aware of it. Listen, I really passionately believe this, that the way to talk to children about drugs and young people is not to go, oh my God, you're all going to die straight away, because they'll see people having a great time with them. The way to do it is to say, you know what? You will see people having a great time doing them. You never know. We can't say categorically you're never going to try them. And you could even have a great time, but it always ends in disaster at some point, whether that be financially, whether you lose all your friends, whether you lose your health. And if you ever stuck in that problem, you're ever tempted or you've taken it, talk to us. And honestly, I really believe that's the way, because if they can't talk to people that truly love them, are going to do the very best for them, who are they going to talk to? Maybe the wrong people.
The only way you can parent or be a guardian or be an adult, I think, with a teenager and kids with drugs is to absolutely guarantee you're not going to go completely spare when they tell you. Because as many people have said here on many other topics, sometimes when you say, make this illegal, don't do this, just because you say it doesn't mean it happen. It's not going to happen. And I think, you could argue, you could use the really kind of tough thing. I always use the analogy of Russian roulette. You could say, look, it's like Russian roulette. Many don't get affected by it. Many won't, but many do. And then show them the scene from The Deer Hunter where Christopher Walken blows his brains out. That usually kind of really shocks them into shape. Abby Reed,
brilliant. Thank you, Abby, for sharing
Thank you.
This.
I've just had sepsis starting from a UTI. Nearly died. Anything that messes with your urinary system is a huge danger.
Thank you for that, Abby. That's so important. I was talking to Hannah the other day. My friend Hannah with cancer, and she was saying, she's had sepsis twice. And she said you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. So actually, that's a really good point to make, that the poisoning that could come just if you're just having, Yeah.
Laura Lou, I just want to answer this because it's a good one. How do you know whether your kid's telling you the truth? You don't. And always assume they're not. I think any parent who says my kid tells me everything, you're in cloud cuckoo land. Yeah. They absolutely don't.
And neither should they. Yeah. But it's not really about getting them to tell you. It's about being open if they need you, about you being the source, about you being, that it comes from a place of love and care, not just rage. But no kid tells their parents everything. Nobody does.
We touched upon this over the weekend in Coffee Moaning Papers, the headline being that sleepless nights for domestic abuse victims, as 1,700 prisoners are going to be released early tomorrow. And obviously within that group are some who have been, banged up for domestic abuse and violence against partners and coercive control. And I just wanted to go back to this because MeTube, you mentioned something really important when we were discussing it yesterday. On Saturday, which is, we don't know the extent to which the prisoners, and there were two cases that the Times homed in on, two cases where, particularly egregious acts of violence against women have been conducted. And these two men are going to have their sentences massively reduced and are going to be released. And I said, you said, MeTube, well, we don't know. Have they been reformed? Have they been rehabilitated? Have they ticked all the requisite boxes in their incarceration? And then I thought, but is that going to speak to anything for the actual victims who, in most domestic abuse cases, there is always a kind of tight connection between the two people, sometimes tragically through children, certainly through relatives, friends, social circles, also through geography. And I just thought, yes, I agree that Labour has to do something about the prison crisis. But in this instance, I've got a really horrible, grim feeling that we could be looking at some really, really difficult headlines in another year, where we look at a possible statistic or an incident where we go, hang on a minute, was that one of the people released in the 1,700 who were released?
But these are people that are going to be released fairly soon anyway. So,
But-
you know, it's a fact. We are fucked up in the way that we choose to put people away and how much time we put for. And I'm sorry, more often than not, crimes that have been committed against women, they're much lower sentences. The system is a total mess.
But do you not think the Labour Party should have done something like
I think
saying
you start with people with financial crimes, not crimes
or
against
white
people.
collar, or any other kind of.
Yeah.
Because look, I mean, I think they just have to also have a category where they say anyone who's been found guilty of domestic abuse isn't released.
Yeah, because it sends out a really clear message of how we feel about crimes. I mean, Labour said they wanted to do more about that. Who's the woman? I always forget, the MP that reads out the names every year of all the women that have been murdered. Jess Phillips.
Yeah.
You know, this could have been a moment where they said nobody of any sexual offences, nobody of any physical violence against women, coercive control is going to be any of the ones that are let out.
Rachel Mason. Also, manslaughter sentences under 4 years will be released early. Disgusting, and no safeguarding for the community. And another really important part of this is some people are going to be released for low-level crimes that are still aggravated assault or sort of, GBH and things like that. But that's what they were put in prison for. But on their records, they have a history of other domestic sort of incidences. I just think there's a whole heap of women.
It's got to be burglary. It's got to be, like you say, white collar crimes.
Yeah.
Nobody that is going to be more scared
with them back out.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I'm going to say something almost really potentially sexist, but do you not sort of start in terms of prison spaces with, given the skew, it's not always skewing one way with domestic abuse, but I would have thought there were more less violent female prisoners.
Yeah, but they need more male prison spaces.
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, in a sense, maybe if there are fewer female prisoners, you then start to adjust the space. I don't know. I just feel some exception could be made. Look, Amber Grindley. Hi, Amber, sweetie. I hope you're well. My friend took her own life from domestic violence. He was only in prison for several months. Oh, it should be stronger sentences for victims taking their life
because it's a living hell, isn't it? The person goes into prison, but as you say, you never. Who was it? Was it Good Ship Lollipop? Says you never rest. Was it Good Ship?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, you're right.
You never feel safe. You never sleep well again.
No. Claire.
It's like stalking. It's the stalking thing as well. I mean, the sentences on that are absolutely pathetic, and they devastate people's lives.
Absolutely. Claire Cummins, all people who are being released have victims, but domestic abuse, robberies, it's always going to be difficult to decide.
Yes.
I agree.
I agree with that, Claire. But I think this was a moment where Labour could have been really clear on actually wanting to make a difference around crimes against women by saying categorically, it's not happening. Yes, of course, everybody that's a victim of any crime is affected, horribly by it. But we need to really believe that this government is going to do something, because it is woeful. It's absolutely woeful the way women are treated, women victims are treated, whether that's through rape, domestic violence, stalking. Could have been a moment. That's all I think.
No, I agree. And also, I just want to share this thought before we move on.
Who was the young person that said
no rehab or therapy happens in prison if you're in for less than 3 years.
There you go.
No one will get
Nobody was
rehab or
rehabilitated. And that our prison system is shit.
Yeah.
We should be rehabilitated. We should be looking at other countries that make real changes with people. A lot of people are born and brought up in a situation where they have no choices. And they're not necessarily bad to their core, but all their choices are bad. And if they're not supported to find a different path, they're going to come out and they're going to be even worse. So it doesn't work. I don't think prison works at all.
Well, yeah, where are they going to go when they let out, Gloria? And final line on this, Erin, the line is clear to everyone. Non-violent crimes should be the only ones considered. Non-violent offenders would be best in prison as likely to make them violent offenders later.
Yeah.
Agree.
I mean, it's so easy, isn't it?
Plain,
so easy. Yeah. I just really wanted that young person that said something about ketamine in their generation. If you could repost that.
Oh, yes.
Because it's great to have somebody directly saying something.
Moved in, wasn't it?
But if you're still here and you could post that again, that would be great because we'd moved on.
Oh, here we go. Matthew,
I just wanted to read what you'd said.
Ketamine is so easily accessible amongst my generation. You can get it for less than a taxi home on a night out.
I know. And then you've got all that peer pressure, and you haven't got any money. And, you can see how, it's bad. Yeah. It's a bad problem. Be aware of it. Just be aware. Don't be hysterical about it. But if you're a parent, I think be aware of it.
Okay, breaking the streak. If I say streaks, what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I thought some people were going to start running around with no clothes on because don't forget, streaks in our generation was you take your clothes off and you run around.
Well, you run around football pitches and then a policeman puts his helmet over your helmet. Yeah. Things like that.
I loved that. I loved that whole thing. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You don't get streakers anymore, do you?
I think I almost can remember that woman's name.
And do you remember back in those days, streakers were rarely explicit because they had so much hair. You never saw anything. At all.
Well, not on their breasts, they didn't.
Well, no, not on their breasts, but
but anyway, so we don't mean streaking in that way nowadays, do we? We mean it as in keeping
something going.
Keeping something going. So we all did the Duolingo for quite a while. God. I was the first one to drop out because I was like, I am not learning anything. What I'm doing now is just cheating so I don't lose my streak. And then I sat down with myself one day and I went, why am I doing this? And I thought, because I'm not really a competitive with myself person. You can call me lazy if you like, but I just don't care. It's like, I don't care. I'm all right giving things up. So it's like, how have I got sucked into this? Well, how I got sucked into it was I wanted to learn Spanish. But then I wasn't learning Spanish. I was just like keeping my streak going. And that's the only thing I can think of having a streak. What's your most streak thing?
Well, I knew, Duolingo I got hooked into. I knew something was afoot when I'd done 400 days in a row. According to the league table, I was the most fluent in Spanish in the world. And I couldn't say a fucking word. All I knew was my streak wasn't breaking. Streak.
Because you can cheat with your streak.
I used to.
You can just keep doing, because I was like, I haven't got time to go up a level. What I'm going to do is just do this one again, because then I'll have my streak.
I mean, it's a form of compulsion. I think there are two sides to it. I think there's the side of, what's it called? Discipline, self-discipline, routine. I certainly, when I was much younger and the damage to my knees wasn't so acute and I hadn't done so many marathons, I was attached to daily chess puzzles, Lee. My thing was very much running. Tell us how you feel if
you were to miss the streak, Lee.
If I hadn't done a run, I would feel out of sorts. I'm still like that around working out and fitness. I need to do it, but it is attached to my mental health. I think I've managed to get rid of the unhealthy compulsive part of it. So for example, we'd go somewhere where maybe I could have a couple of days off in the past, and I'd struggled with that because I was like, well, how am I going to run? And suddenly it's the tail that wags the dog.
No, and there's got to be somewhere in between this, because consistency is key, right? So I need to be more consistent because I have a real problem with consistency. And so maybe something like that would be good, but it would be good if it was 3 times a week. Right. Not like every day.
Right.
I mean, I've got friends who practically throw themselves
out of a window
if they think they're going to miss their Duolingo, and surely that is not healthy.
Well,
it can't be healthy. Well, it's good to be consistent, but if like so much of it is riding on this that you're going to feel such a failure if you don't, that's never good. Like my dad always says, it's extreme. Yeah. Extremes are never good for the health. And
but I think I can understand why some people do it, because I think the fear is that unless you enshrine it and make it an absolute thing you've got to do, life is so difficult. There's so many demands. You'll lose consistency.
But there's a good bit in that article I should have highlighted it about
this bit here. Feeling trapped by the pressure of maintaining. Some people can find themselves trapped, though.
There you go.
According to a psychotherapist, streaking can be affirming, helping us build resilience, but it can also have a negative effect as we become competitive with ourselves to the point of obsession.
Yeah.
If the streak becomes the focus and not the learning or self-improvement aspect, it will actually tap into our negative beliefs. For example, if one of our core beliefs is, I'm not good enough, this will motivate us to keep going with the streak to avoid the emotions associated with it. But maintaining the streak isn't enough to counter these negative thoughts. This ends up with us feeling trapped, both in a streak and also in a cycle of negative beliefs. She's described my head most of the time.
It's absolutely perfect. So, Lee, did you have?
He said he wouldn't freak out if he didn't do it every day.
So then yours isn't.
Yeah.
Yours isn't. Yours is okay. This is about people that might be at 500 Duolingos.
Anything that overtakes and interferes with your day-to-day life is addiction.
It is.
Is compulsion.
It is compulsive
You're right.
behaviour.
You're right. Emma does life. Anything. It's like Instagram. I have to post every single day, and I just can't. Right. I see what you mean. Yeah. I mean, other apps.
But you see, that's interesting. I have to. Says who?
Yes, says who?
Says who?
Yeah.
Because if you have to, because you've said to yourself, I have to post on Instagram every day, what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for a repetitive feeling of failure. Like you said, I just can't do it. So it's like, I think it's best to go, what? I'm not going to say I'm going to do it every way because I can't do it. And then all that happens is I'm not doing it, and I've re-endorsed that feeling of being a failure. So
but I think most physical exercise, runners, there's a lot in this article about runners who do it. I was once into the gym, Lorna, for years. I would pound away, was in excellent shape. Then my discs went and I had to stop. Feel so pressured to get back to it. I need a knock before I can. The compulsive action of exercise. I think something I've really tried to embrace is changing up your exercises, moving it around and not doing just one thing all the time. Apps, I tell you what, this thing is a bit of a streak. Trying to kind of, if not hit your 10,000 steps, hit your heart rate at a certain amount of exercise and all this kind of thing.
That really helped me.
Yeah.
Because that really helped me because it really got my steps up. I mean, just unbelievably. But I think as well, because I wasn't obsessional about it, we got obsessional at one point, didn't we? We were in bed and realised we hadn't hit our 10,000, one of us, and we started running up and down the stairs.
Yeah,
now, that's not
we'd start
healthy.
shaking hands.
That's not healthy. You're cheating
as
well. Because it's about getting movement through your day, isn't it? And so it becomes like you're cheating with yourself for what?
It's
like
madness.
Insanity,
welcome to the world of addiction, guys.
Insanity is repeating the same action, hoping for a different outcome.
Addiction is stupid, fruitless, and just so got to be done. It's terrible, isn't it? It's a terrible thing. Anyway.
So have we got time to do our little funnies at the end?
Let's do our little funnies at the end. So before we do so we've done that one. Are we going to hold back on vibes and divorce at 60?
Yeah, you can start showing some of those because I'm going to cut the melon and see if it's any
I'm just going to show you some really embarrassing tattoos, which is always fun, isn't it, to see some embarrassing tattoos? So check these out. Wow, that's on the back of someone's head. Obviously, it's not their actual face.
What possesses them?
I mean, I don't know if you saw at the weekend that girl who had Trump tattooed onto her forehead. She's now sort of crowdfunding to get it removed. Could have all said to her, why did someone just say stop as it was happening? Vibes. Ferraphic Fark. What? Where am I? An alien off his head on spliff. That's supposed to be Harley Quinn, believe it or not. Incoming.
Where is that?
That's supposed to be of someone's child. I thought it was The Exorcist.
Okay, right. We've got to pause this because I've got news.
Look at this. But just look at that bong. That's a God Almighty.
Sorry, this is more important.
Yes.
It opened beautifully, and it smells fragrant.
Fucking hell. We're on a roll. If you're listening on podcast, you're now hearing a melon is being cut into.
If you've pulled off getting the best melon of the season.
I don't know what to say.
Thank God you haven't.
Oh.
It's all right.
It's all right. Is it a bit? No. Is it a bit
boring?
Cotton woolly. All right. No. This has turned into ASMER or whatever it's called. What's it called? PRS, BDSM, something like that. Final tattoos. I can't work out why a TIE fighter and a peach's arse have been brought together. That speaks to many odd things. That looks like Nadia on a Friday in Vauxhall. Fucking hell.
Hideous. Okay, let's
Christ.
move on to the nice.
So, do you want the funny one?
So sweet.
Kids, do you want to set it up, or do we need to explain?
Just watch
No,
this.
just watch it.
Wait, Sid. No, where was I?
Oh my god!
Isn't that brilliant?
And then there's this one.
You can tell he's boss.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Lots of love, guys. For members, don't forget we have a live tonight because we couldn't do the No Name Sunday show because we celebrate Teddy's birthday.
We're working on the time just because I've got a live at something else.
But it's probably going to be more 5-ish, isn't it?
Yes.
5-ish.
And we will do Divorce at 60 and Vibes at another time this week. Guys.